this morning, that's alright. I was up all night, but I passed out before the sun came up. I really wanted to see one of those. I know that's no way for a man to behave, with a mortgage due and a baby on the way. But somehow I made it to where I'm at. It's been a living as a matter of fact. I get a bad attitude from being tired and running around. Never ask for anyone, say they like my sound. I've never been a part of any musical scenes. I ain't just talking Nashville, if you know what I mean. They don't write about me in their magazines. I don't ask for new reviews on the songs that I sing. I've never had a lot of friends, and I'm alright by that. But people keep on coming back, raising hell with the hippies and the cowboys. They don't care about no trends, they don't care about songs that sell. Yeah, tomorrow I'll be gone, so tonight everybody just sing along, raising hell with the hippies and the cowboys. I've been standing on the outside for all of my life, but I like the view, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, the yuppies and the hipsters and the wannabe scenes, that ain't down home to me. I like $2 beers, I like $3 wells, and some old honky-tonk bar I know by the smell. Some old drunk on a bar stool on a Merle Haggard tune. That's my kind of room, raising hell with the hippies and the cowboys. They don't care about no trends, they don't care about songs that sell. Yeah, tomorrow I'll be gone, so tonight everybody just sing along, raising hell with the hippies and the cowboys. Hippies and the cowboys, they don't care about no trends, they don't care about songs that sell. Yeah, tomorrow I'll be gone, so tonight everybody just sing along, raising hell with the hippies and the cowboys. I'll be raising hell with the hippies and the cowboys.
Is Hippies and Cowboys, Cody Jinks. I like that song. I picked that song tonight because, well, the show is kind of targeting cowboys and cowboy culture and people who are pursuing horsemanship. And our guest tonight, Nick Donohue, is from Oregon, and I think of hippies and tree huggers and all that kind of stuff. So we thought hippies and cowboys, that'd be a great way to get started. So welcome to Three questions with Ricky Quinn.
Terrible.
John Stewart, what are you saying?
Say you're terrible.
All right. Well, we're very lucky that this is episode 5 of Three Questions with Ricky Quinn, and I'm super excited tonight because we do have Nick Donohue joining us, and Nick's from Banks, Oregon. Banks is right outside of Portland, so we really appreciate you, Nick, for joining us and not protesting tonight and not burning things down or painting things. So really appreciate you joining us. If you've watched our previous episodes, you know that the format's pretty simple, and we'll take the next 45 minutes to an hour and bounce around three questions. In the first three episodes, I got to ask Ricky all three questions, and then last week, for the first time, we had Ryan Brand join us, and the format was similar to what we're going to do tonight. I got to ask the guys one question, and then our guest was able to ask Ricky a question, and Ricky closed it with a question of his own. And I understand, Ricky, tonight you have two questions that you're going to ask Nick. So I'm not going to change the whole slide and everything, call it 4 questions with Ricky Quinn, but you're breaking the rules. But, if you have not watched the previous episodes, you can check them out on Ricky Quinn Clinic's Facebook page, or we have a brand new YouTube channel. So if you've got Roku or a Slingbox or Apple TV and you watch YouTube on your TV, you can always just type in Ricky Quinn or Ricky Quinn Clinics, and you'll see the first 4 episodes already posted there. And would love for you to watch those as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and just say thank you, Ricky. I know you've had some good response from people texting you and calling you and sending you messages, smoke signals from the Freliks up in North Dakota. Yeah. So
Never mind.
Yeah, proud of his indigenous peoples. But anyway, we've had some really good response. I want to say thank you to the people who have joined us, even people who tonight were having a hard time connecting to Facebook, and we've got a group of people who are joining us here on Zoom and can ask us questions and things of that nature. We appreciate you joining us this time of, I don't know if you can say this time of year or just this place in history. Everybody is yelling at each other. Everybody is trying to get airwaves and get sound bites and try to get attention. And I tell you, it's just been nice, Ricky, just to sit back 1 hour a week and just kind of have a real conversation around horses, around life, things that we care about. And if you want to watch the news, have at it. There's no political commercials here. We're just gonna have a nice conversation, and it's nice to invite somebody in from the liberal state of Oregon as well. So, Nick, thanks for joining us. So one thing is, if you are joining us, make comments on the Facebook page, share the Facebook page. Hit like, hit love, whatever it is. Ricky kind of gets his feelings hurt if nobody hits like, and so he wants to make sure, because he's a big social media whore and just follows social media constantly, and wants all the likes and the positive affirmation. But thank you for sharing the videos, and let's go ahead and get started. So as I mentioned, our special guest is Nick Donohue. Nick and his wife Jessie have the Silver Spade Ranch in Banks, Oregon, and Nick, thanks for joining us. I know that you and Jessie have built a really nice life there in Oregon. I've been to your place in Banks. You give lessons. You work with outside horses. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your operation out there, Nick?
Hey, thank you, John, for having me on. And can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it, and look forward to doing this. It's just a basic horse operation. It's nothing really that out of the ordinary, in the sense that we've got a boarding facility. We're boarding horses. One thing we do a little different here is we don't board outside horses. Either to board at our place, you've got to be involved in the horsemanship program. The horsemanship, whether it's attending clinics with us or doing weekly lessons or having horses in training. But we're not your typical boarding facility where just anybody can come in. And that's really the biggest difference with us, which is made it nice because you don't deal with a lot of the typical thing where you just got random people coming and going. Everybody's pretty like-minded. They're pursuing the same things. And it takes away from a little of the drama and that kind of stuff. We don't have to have a lot of rules or have a lot of structure with that, because everybody's just kind of on the same page. They want to be here. They're pursuing the horsemanship. They're involved, and so as kind of a facility, that's kind of what we based it around. And then the things we offer again.
Nick, there's still a lot of freedom, though. I mean, they can come and trailer their horse. It's still their horse, right? They don't just have to, they can go do what they want, right?
Yes, they can go do whatever they want. They just have to have some involvement.
Yeah.
It's not the there's plenty of freedom, and that's the thing of not having to have any rules, really.
There's 2 rules.
Yeah.
What are they?
2 rules. Heck, I don't even remember them.
This style of horsemanship. This style of horsemanship and no drama. I'll never forget when you open that barn.
Yeah, no drama.
2 rules.
Well, I will tell you, Ricky, if we ever have an episode on manure management, we need to have Nick come back and join us.
Absolutely.
We can spend a whole hour just talking about how Nick has invested in the coolest compost aeration system that I think anybody's ever seen. So that'll be for another episode. I will tell you real quick, Nick, yesterday was your 14th anniversary. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So congratulations.
Yes,
14. We thought I'd show those pictures there that she posted on Facebook saying it was your anniversary. Congratulations on that. And then one thing I do want to mention about Jessie real quick, just because I'm a big fan. She's an entrepreneur in her own right. I mean, you are running the horse operation along with her, but she also opened 3 or 4 years ago. How long has she been doing Silver Spade Silks now? Is this 5 years?
Oh, at least 4. Yeah, she kind of started it when, probably 5. She kind of started it when we had Leah and she wasn't spending as much time out in the barn.
Well, she does amazing work. I think you'll see me change some different ones. I've got like literally 8 of these hanging here, and so I'm gonna show them. At the end of our little show, I'll tell you how you can win one of these from Jessie. It's not going to be one of mine that smells like me. We're going to send you a brand new one, and Jessie's going to send that out to one of our winners later, and we'll tell you how to do that. But if you need flags, those flags that I'm showing there, she put my barn logo on there, so I've got K-Trails on all of our fancy flags. We've already worn that set out, and now we're on another set she sent us. She does really cool mugs. I like the snaffle and hackamore and 2-rein and bridle goals, all kinds of custom fabrics. And next week, Ricky, if you're lucky, you're going to see me wearing some new Hawaiian prints. So honoring my Hawaiian heritage there with.
Looking forward to that, John.
They went out in the mail yesterday morning.
There you go. So, all right. So let's get started with the questions then. My first question for you guys, I live in Indiana. And I was invited to my first horsemanship clinic, 15 years ago or so, however long it was, 12, 13, 14 years ago, by a friend that was here who was just starting out to pursue horsemanship as well. And we went to the horsemanship clinic. It was a guy named Quinn. He chewed my ass out and came back about 6 months later and did it again. The biggest struggle that I have here is really wanting to grow with other people on the horsemanship journey. And we've got a small group of people here, mainly four or 5 women, and their husbands are very forgiving and letting me kind of glom on and talk to them all the time and try to, bounce ideas back and forth. But when I was out at your place, Nick, I was really envious because you seem to have a really core group of people who are pursuing this. Then Ricky told me about your rule about, the 2 rules of the barn are pursue the style of horsemanship and no drama. Which I think are need to be put on a mug and sold to everybody, but those are great rules. But going to just how you did this, and I know Ricky comes through there, but what would be your advice to other trainers, other barn owners, other instructors as it relates to how do you build a horsemanship community, people who are really pursuing the style of horsemanship?
I kind of have to go all the way back to just the beginning. And the reality of it was, while we were trying to build this community, we were really trying to build ourselves in the sense of pursuing the horsemanship and trying to bring people along. It wasn't something that, at least at first, it's not like we went out and we tried to sell it, I guess I should say. We didn't go out there and try to convince people, hey, come join us, come do this. It was more organic in the sense of we pursued it and we had an enthusiasm to share it. And so we just kept going, kept pushing, kept attending clinics, trying to ride with Brannaman, meeting Ricky and riding with Ricky. And then as we kind of got a small group of people together, trying to keep them close and keep everybody knit to where we were doing things. And that's kind of where we started to actively build the community, just having events, taking everybody to clinics and organizing it for them so that it made it easy, so that they could come, because some of them were first-time horse owners. Some of them may have had horses for a while, but were struggling and having problems. And some may have just been kind of coming along, but didn't really have any direction. And so we tried to offer direction and offer things for them to do, while at the same time trying to pursue getting better ourselves, trying to pursue understanding more ourselves, and just trying to bring them along. And it's something that kind of it attracted a certain type of person. It attracted people to us, and as the group grew, it attracted more and more people. You know, they start wanting to check it out and see what it is and what we're doing. But trying to keep everybody on the same page to where there wasn't a bunch of people doing a lot of different things, really made it cohesive to where it was easy for people to feel comfortable failing, to feel comfortable making mistakes, to feel comfortable trying stuff, because we all were. And there was a big piece of that. There was a big piece in, I believe, just the desire Jesse and I had to grow as people, as a couple, as a business, that attracted people. And then trying to direct that, you know, from things that we did. We'd have a summer picnic every year where we invite everybody out and have everybody get together and do that. We'll do a winter dinner. In the evenings before COVID, every Tuesday night, whoever was here would come in the house and we do a dinner. Having Ricky here and trying to, when we do that, make an inclusive thing to where, hey, we're going out to dinner, everyone can join us, or if we're doing something at the house, people can come in and join us. To allow people to have something that they were proud of to be a part of, and not feel like they were on the outside, kind of looking into that community, really kind of reaching out. And to be honest, there were times where there's certain people that I try to reach out, I try to make them feel comfortable, but for whatever reason, whether it was me, whether it was the group, they never could turn loose and fit in on their own. Like we tried to invite them, tried to make them, and sometimes that would happen. We weren't a fit, and to not take that personal, to allow, you know, to give them the freedom to be involved as they want. And if they ended up eventually leaving, understanding that we did what we could. For some reason, it wasn't a fit. It wasn't anything negative on them, anything negative on us. And sometimes you have to let those people kind of move on. Sometimes they work their way back.
Because of were they not pursuing horsemanship, or they were pursuing horsemanship but just didn't feel comfortable at the barn? I mean, were they walking away from kind of that Hunt, Dorrance, Brannaman style of horsemanship, or was it really something there at the barn?
Well, it could be both, honestly.
It was Nick.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. and very well could.
I can relate.
Pardon?
I can relate.
And but the thing is to not take that personal. And if there was something that was particular that was me that I did do, just try to learn from it, move forward, not to sit there and make a big deal about it. And we've had people that have left that have come back, and we've had things like that happen, and you just invite them back in and keep going. A big thing is just kind of looking forward. I think one of the biggest things in building it was offering people direction and purpose. I think a lot of times people have the desire, but they're maybe lacking direction or purpose, and so they'll end up kind of waning off and going trying this and going trying that and just not really sure. So I think that was a big piece in building this. It's just giving people things to do and changing it up, having different things from doing clinics to we did cow workings where we gave a buckle away, a series where we'd give a buckle away that was really low key, low pressure, something that anybody could come and do and enjoy, but just try to build that camaraderie with everybody.
That's great. Ricky, what are your comments on this about building a house? On our first episode, we talked about Horsemanship Community. You said Nick's probably doing it better than anybody. And I use the example, people who read the Bible, it talks about different people having different talents. You know, there are evangelists who go out and preach, and there are pastors who care for a community. And really those two work really well together. And I view you as an evangelist who rolls through, town and drops a bunch of, horsemanship gospel on people. But then Nick has to be there for the next, 11, 12 months and, really follow up on where they were. How does that work with you guys?
Everything that Nick said, right, John? I mean, 100% what he said. I've been watching it since before the barn was built. I mean, I remember Nick and Jesse bringing me into a place they were leasing, and literally the corrals were made out of baler twine. I mean, I'll never forget it. Horses standing hock deep in mud outside. Little tiny arena, the typical East and West Coast arenas with all the cobwebs in the ceilings, and I remember the place and I remember the start they had. And one, I don't know, I'm going to kind of go off on a little side note here, but a couple that really, really, really supported Nick and Jesse into the spot that they're in are Jesse's parents. And they were such a huge part. Not to get into details of it, but I'm always going to bring them up. I always do when I'm there, because I remember when Nick and Jesse were thinking about moving out of leasing a barn and rolling into their own deal and what that truly takes. And the support that they got from several people, but Jesse's parents were such a huge piece of that, and they still are, and they're still very, very supportive. And then Nick and Jesse have handled it in such a way to where they've made a legit business out of it, right? I mean, they really rolled forward with it, taken it serious, and built it into something. And in the situation they're in, there might be people out there that wouldn't do that might take advantage of the situation. And so it's such a neat family thing, actually. It goes deeper than just Nick and Jesse, right? And so that also makes it very special, right? It gives it that part. But as far as building a community, what I've done, I've already, Alicia's question way back a month ago of what would you change, Ricky, 10 to 12 years ago? I've said that, anybody who knows me today knows that I would say I'd change how I interacted with people, right? But I think that something that because I've talked to a lot of people about how I am and how I come across, and the people that I've run off, because of my style of human being and my lack and everything else, that I think that one thing that I've heard from people is, you're honest. you might come across really wrong, Ricky, and a huge jerk, but it doesn't mean necessarily that you're not being honest about what you're seeing, right, and doing. And so that's one thing I see with Nick and Jesse in their operation to build what they are building is 110% honesty. As far as I know, at least from what I see, right? Unless other things happen behind closed doors when I'm not there, which happens too. But I really think that the honesty that the place brings, as far as, and that's what Nick talks about in pursuing it within himself, Jesse pursuing it within herself, just that's the thing that the horsemanship brings, is bringing that honesty to yourself. And Nick saying, going all the way back to the beginning of Jesse and I chasing the horsemanship alone, that's what he's saying, right? I mean, the horses are telling him how to be. And so Nick and Jesse, not just in their horsemanship, which that's changed so much from when I've met them. It's fun to watch them, right? But then just as people. And so if anybody has known Nick and Jesse 10 years ago to versus today, they can see the path that they're on. And Nick and Jesse's place is a little bit different. And the fact that your reward is to go there and be on that trajectory as a person, if that makes sense. To where you don't go there and you get coddled. I've got some other friends that are in a barn and they've got some clientele in there, and we were visiting, and I won't get into details of it, but it's so hard sometimes in some of them, being honest, in some of these boarding facilities, having to cater to the customer. It's not, there's a lot of people that just twist off and they're just not healthy. They're just not. And so that trajectory that Nick and Jesse are on as people with the honesty, and you can see it in their children and just the atmosphere of the barn, the people that choose to hang out there, I think all of them would say that we get as much being at this place in our riding, we're chasing, as it helps center us as people, right? And so, and that could sound kind of corny. That could sound kind of like, oh my gosh, it could be a cult if you're not careful. It really could be. But that's not what it is, right? I mean, just because. What's that?
Somebody did comment that it was a cult. This is a cult that we're all in, kind of pursuing.
Yeah. And in some ways.
Kathleen Edge also said, Ricky said, it's also been special to see the age range. Kids, teens, adults, and grandparents all connecting over common love for this kind of horsemanship. And I think that's what you're talking about with Jesse's parents and Nick and
oh, it's you guys, it's more than the red barn outside of Banks. Right, I feel it here at my house. I feel it at the arena I'm a part of now. You get in there and you start to create a culture, and the whole feel changes. Our home, Sarah and I built this home, and when it was just us two, it had a different feeling than what it does now. When you see, the kids drawing on the walls, it's got a different feel to it. It's got life to it, and that's a lot of what Nick and Jesse's barn is. And then to see what they're pursuing. I mean, Nick, I'm going to touch on a couple things. One thing is the amount of young horses that they ride. They ride a lot of young horses and green horses. That's what the morning is. Whenever I'm there, that's what they're doing in the morning, right? Is they're riding young horses. I have no idea how many, but I do know this, that it's a 40 stall barn, right, Nick?
Yeah.
Yep. 40, and they had to add stuff out. They've already added to it because of the demand to come in there, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And so a lot of young horses that they're riding in the morning. And then I know that Nick rides the horses that he's showing or getting ready to show in the afternoon. And then that's usually what I saw when the lessons and those kinds of things kick in. But then another part that Nick is doing is that he's really pursuing the horseshoeing side of things. Because he and I've talked about this a lot, especially him chasing the stock horse side. He's actually showing. I'm just talking about it and still haven't done it yet, right? But he's actually active in it. But I am also chasing it. But the horses have to be sound. They can't just be lame. They've got to be sound through their whole body. So Nick is chasing the soundness in the feet, you know, physically in the horses. Um, they're chasing soundness in the nutrition. They're chasing soundness in the horsemanship, you know, and all of that, those things coming together is also a huge part of that community, you know, because again, just like what Nick said, it's like-minded. Everybody's chasing the same thing. And I've said this, I was told this a long time ago, and this is a really big deal to me. You are who you hang out with. And the place that Nick and Jesse have made, I've seen so many people that have been there, kids, but some of them 12, 13, 14 years old. There was just a girl the last time I was there. She's like in college, and I almost didn't even recognize her. But the kind of young woman that she is today, I think that Nick and Jesse's operation helped make her what she is today, along with others that are going to college in Wisconsin or California, or right. And so a lot of these kids that come in there that are leaving and moving on, when they come back to visit, you can tell that there's still a huge part of them there, right? That they can feel the place. And so building the community, John, in a lot of ways, the horses are what brings us there, because if Nick and Jesse had a barn full of four-wheelers, nobody would show up. Nice scarf, John. Nice scarf. I like it. But then you're muted, John. But then so it's really the horses that bring everybody there. But then if the people that are there running the show aren't chasing it in a healthy way, the barn will reflect it. And I've been in unhealthy barns before. And a lot of times it starts from the top. And I know that at the operation Nick and Jesse are running from the top, they're pretty sound people. And that's why they have the community that they have.
Well, so like when you go in there and do a clinic, you go to Nick's place once a year or twice a year. How often are you going up there?
Once a year. They don't want me more than once.
Well, so when you go in there once a year, are you seeing growth? I mean, what do you like each time you roll in there? What's happening with the people who are in the clinics?
From the people that I see consistently, I used to go twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, honey. Like come in the wintertime. And really, it's a waste of their money for me to come in more than once a year, to be honest. I mean, they have Nick and Jesse. In all honesty, it really is. And so that's why we do once a year. And I think they bring me in once a year to be nice more than anything. But absolutely, I see progress, right? What's really interesting, John, in observing the whole thing is, yes, I see progress in the people. I see progress in the horsemanship. I see progress in the husbandry of the horses. I see progress in the facility as it's growing, right? And the plans that are put into place and what they're going to do next and all those different things. And I see progress in the people, in their riding, okay? But again, as far as that community thing we're talking about, the strength in that community is actually, I mean, that's the real progress in all of it. It really is. I mean, the friendships, Anna's working there, or Anna's working there. I got an Anna now that works with us, and I get them mixed up. Anna's there, and she's living in a little camper there, you know, and just riding horses every day and loving it. And she's got a brain to do something more than ride horses if she wanted to. But because of how that place makes her feel, she'd rather be there than go chase a corporate job somewhere where she could buy Nick and Jesse 10 times. And so that's what I see. And when you're doing things like that, that means you're doing something right.
And the thing with like Anna, you know, kind of going back to her and Louise, they were all like, I think Anna was 8 when she started with us. Louise and Laura were like 10.
Yep.
But I feel like part of, and I don't really know outside of we just try to give and are accepting. I don't know why or how, but I think the people here feel a ownership of not the stuff, but of the community. They feel like they are representative, that they have a stake in what we're doing here. And I think that kind of helps. And kind of going back to the people you're saying, how that can kind of twist off and catering to things. It's those are the ones where it's like I can't take it personal. Those people come in, they can adjust, and fit in. We're going to welcome them in. We're giving them an opportunity to adjust. But if they don't want to, it never has to be an ugly thing. They usually just leave.
I can't take him seriously, Nick. Sorry, man. John is a character. What a character.
I said, I don't.
It
I'm listening. I'm listening intently, Ricky, and then you keep making comments. The people who are viewing, they can't see what you're talking about. So, no, I really love my Silver Spade silks and my wild rags. I just hope that everybody else is noticing the 7 or 8 that I'm displaying for you tonight. So,
Jesse appreciates it.
Well, let me talk about this because several years ago, Ricky, you'll remember this when Isaac and Riata were at Montana State University. I went to one of the colt sales, and I was really impressed with and I won't mention his name, but there was a trainer that brought five of his clients in, and they all bought 3-year-old horses, every one of them. So they left there with 5 3-year-old horses, and spent a lot of money and everything else. And I couldn't believe they did the road trip together. But then I was scratching my head going, this guy's actually a lot smarter than I thought, because now those people have no business handling 3-year-old horses. And he basically just bought himself about 3 or 4 years of training and working with these people. And I kind of sit there and think about you, Nick, as it relates to if anybody is running a barn, realizing how you've had, people there since they were 8 and 10 years of age, there's what you're doing is right. And you've got, there's a lot of ingredients to a successful barn, but it's like, if I was a horse trainer or owned a barn, I would definitely want to kind of follow your map, your roadmap to success. And it doesn't sound like it's out of a book. It just sounds like you're so intently pursuing horsemanship on your own that, you're inviting people along with you. I mean, what else would you say? I mean, to any other barn, to people who own a barn like you do, and just, I mean, what other advice would you give them?
It's, you have to have a path. You have to be something you're chasing. And it doesn't have to be static. I mean, we've adjusted and changed and as we've grown, pursued different things. But we've always been pursuing growth. We've always been pursuing something and trying to get better at it. There's something ahead. There's something more with the horse, and something fairly concrete in the sense of all the way back to where it was just, I want to be able to ranch rope. I want to be able to be able to do that, to doctor cattle if I need to. I want to and really it first started out with just wanting to be able to go to clinics and not look like an idiot, be able to get along with a horse, then be able to do something with them with roping and trying to work cattle in more kind of a ranchy type thing till where now we're pursuing the horse showing, the stock horse and the cow horse. And everything is just added a different layer, a different amount of refinement. But everything goes back to those first few years where it was just trying to get that foundation to get along with the horses. I mean, everything kind of goes back to that and the mentality it's taking to be able to do that. And so one of the biggest things is you need to have a direction. You need to have somewhere you're going. You need to have people who have been there or who are chasing the same thing or that are further ahead that you can chase, that you can work with, that can help you. need to, there's a piece of it that's, while you need to pursue it, sometimes I pursued it too hard in a sense. Like I was pushing through without trying to think of how to say this. Have those goals, have them be realistic, and allow time to kind of do it. Don't try to force it. You know, whether it's working with the horse or building the community, it's something that kind of evolves over time, and it's amazing the power time has. That if you have a direction that you're going, time can do a lot. If you don't have a direction, it's going to be really difficult. And then just try to be honest with people. Try to do your best, and be willing to share. Be willing to bring people along. Want to bring people along, because I honestly feel like the people we have here are something that we attracted more than we tried to pursue or tried to convince. We just kept trying to, Ricky, you say this a lot about how you try to add value, right? We've just been growing and trying to add value that people might want. And then if they want it, we want to give it to them. The comment, kind of what you said, and you know, I'm not going to say what's right or wrong, but I know for me, really trying to direct people in what I think is best for them, not necessarily what I think is best for my pocket. I don't know how many times I've talked people out of buying horses, being on, and that are going to send them to me to ride because it's not going to work for the person. And being like, you know, it'd take you might have to have me ride that horse for a year before it even be something I'd consider having you ride. And we could take that money and go get you something right now that you could enjoy and have fun. So really trying to be better, pursue it, have a target, be chasing something, and then do what's right, not necessarily just what's right for you. Try to look at the whole picture there. Because honestly, in the end, not that I'm doing it because of that, in the end, doing what's right for that person is going to be better for me than a couple months of a training horse.
Cool.
It's really good. And Nick, I appreciate you letting us to talk about, you know, building a horsemanship community. You know, when you live in a desert like I do, sometimes you just kind of, and not a desert like you're used to in Arizona, but you know, when people don't raise cows on horseback around here, they don't work cows the same way, and people aren't pursuing the style of horsemanship. It's just, I'm envious when I hear of, you know, when I get to walk in your barn and just see people who are just pursuing this, and the quality of people you have coming in. And same thing I feel like Alicia down in Nashville. You know, I'd love to move down there and just kind of be around people who are pursuing it. So, all right. So part of the deal, second question, Nick, you get to ask Ricky any question that's been on your mind. What would you like to ask Ricky Quinn?
You know, one thing, Ricky's been a large influence on us personally, on our program, on the community we've built. And, you know, just something kind of I'm curious about is his observations, what he's seen in kind of the development and evolution of the community we've built, and what he's seen in that, if it's had any effect on how he's approached us or approached the other groups, and kind of what he might see us going forward, if he's got any advice on kind of rolling forward with it into the future.
I think you need more lazy you horses in your program. I think in some ways
we're working on that, by the way.
I think in some ways, Nick, I should be asking you the question of how can I continue to help you, right? I mean, your guys' program speaks for itself. You know, there's some people out there, in the horsemanship world that I've learned from. I used to be one, Nick. You know this. You know, if it was talking about somebody else who taught clinics, or gosh, just another human being on the planet, right? Judgmental, and I talk about them and that kind of thing, or I try to show my loyalty to, as an example, to Brannaman. If anybody ever said anything negative about Brannaman, boy, I'd come unglued and defend him to the end, right? And it's like, man, that guy has done so much, and he's so together and so successful. He doesn't need defended. It speaks for itself, right? And I mean, that's exactly where your guys is, in my eyes, your operation is today. Is your operation pretty much speaks for itself. One thing I can say about your operation that is too bad, Nick, that is a negative, is that there's not more of them all over the U.S. that have the same kind of foundation that yours has, in all honesty, because I really believe that if people were to spend, you know, you can't really go somewhere, you guys. It's like these dang clinics. In some ways, I love doing it. If I'm being really honest, in some ways, I love them. And in some ways, I absolutely hate them. I don't like them. And what I love about them is going to a place like yours, Nick, and being able to go there, share my ideas of, usually all I share, Nick, you and Jesse, you've seen this for years. I just come in there and share with you guys where I'm at today, really. That's really all I know. And then there will be some people there that I'll help them with where they are. But really, we're just kind of talking about a new feel, a new way to look at this, or a new way to look at that. And just not necessarily a brand new way, but just a new feel to things. You know, the foundation's always there. And being able to go there and do that, and then know that because of how you and Jesse are, and a lot of the people that you ride with, that once I leave, to know, as hard as you're chasing this, and Jesse, it's very, very gratifying for me if I take time to go to you. Now, I'm not going to get you wrong. I like making a living also, right? That's partially why what I do it for. But it's really, I love my job that I get to go there. I get to share my ideas. I get to do things. I get to help you a little bit to where you see something new for yourself, possibly, maybe not, right? Jesse or whoever it is. And then when I leave, that stuff is on your mind, and then you try to carry that through. So if I do a clinic at the fairgrounds in who knows where, Kansas, and a bunch of people show up, which is great, don't get me wrong, bunch of people show up, in all honesty, if there's 40 people there, a very few of them, a lot of them leave with information on their mind. But in my experience of doing these now for more than 1 year and being around more than one person, my experience is, and me being wired this way too, right? I'm a human being also, and I'm learning that all the time. And a lot of times people don't pursue it. It's true, right? And and that can be very frustrating when you go back and you're watching, and it's like, it's been almost a year. What's the problem? And in the past, I'd hammer on those people for not working hard enough to get better, right? Putting it all on them, which there's some truth in that. But if they had a community that they were a part of, to have the consistency day to day, you follow me? That's what I like about the showing, is that you have a reason to go out there and ride your horse besides just working on horsemanship. You know, some people can be motivated enough to just work on horsemanship, and that is a skill, because I don't think I can. If all I had to do is ride around an arena, I don't know if I would do it necessarily.
Well, and
right?
all they want to do is go to a clinic. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
like,
And
he didn't want to be embarrassed at the clinic, but the problem is I've seen it on the other side where people, that's all they want to do. Like they ride to go and look good in an arena, in a clinic, and you know, go out to dinner and you know.
And I don't have, luckily, I don't have very many of those in my clinics. And I don't know if it's because of my harshness and everything else from the past that I kind of ran them off, you know. If I did, I feel bad, right? But I know that for myself now and where my little career of that has taken me is the amount of repeats that I have are really, really high. And they're really, it's when I go back, sometimes I'm kind of caught off guard with like, you actually took that seriously, you know, and that is a really, really, really neat thing. And so I can absolutely say that about your operation, that when I go back, when I watched you ride that yellow horse of yours, Nick, or I watched you ride Fancy, I really, really, really liked what I saw, right? Really liked what I saw because it was so much better than the time before. And then to see where you've gone in your horseshoeing personally, I really, it's like from what I know, right? I'm looking at it going, man, that is really, really cool stuff to see how the people interact with each other, to see the young people that you have there, and they don't just lollygag and walk around and drag their feet and, you know, to get it. They are humping it, man. You know, they're moving, they're getting a job done, they're doing their chores, they're doing their stuff. There's motivation, there's work ethic, right? So it goes more on just kind of where we are with the horsemanship side, because that's taking care of itself, Nick. I'm seeing it in the people. The people are happy. The people aren't scared of you. They feel like they can communicate. They're not offended by you, right? Um, it just, I don't know. I don't have enough good things to say, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, man. I'm like, honestly, I don't have enough good things to say because I really truly believe it. And you already know me that if I wasn't that way, I probably wouldn't go back. That's where I am in my life now. Is I'm not doing this for the money. I am making a living, Nick, but I'm not doing it for the money. And if I go someplace, I'm not going to waste my time. I want serious people that are going to be involved and take me seriously. I'll do everything in my power to get them better. And that's what I feel like when I go to your guys' operation. Everybody takes me seriously, not so dang serious that, you know, that they're bothered by me or that. But they, when I go there to where we can laugh and joke around the campfire if there was one, right? But when we get into the arena, everybody's just giving it their all. And then it shows that they're continuing to give it their all even after I'm gone because of the improvement I see, not just in them but in you and Jesse, right? And the improvement has to come from you and Jesse. Otherwise, a lot of the people that are there wouldn't know what to follow. So it all comes down to you and Jesse. So it really comes down to, I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing in your guys' horsemanship, where you're taking it, where your mind is going, because that's what everybody else is trying to chase anyways. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And Nick,
I don't.
happy. There are certain words that you've not heard at your barn that I've heard. I mean, I remember the second clinic I went to of Ricky's, he said, "Wow, I never really thought you'd come back." And I didn't know how to take that. Now I realize exactly what he was saying. And then the other quote, and I've shared this before, but I don't know if you've heard it, Nick, to where I was at a clinic one time where Ricky asked, "How many times have I come back here? Like, how many times have I been here?" And everybody said, "Oh, you've been here for like 5 years." He goes, "Well, you guys should be further along than where you are." And and I understand your role as a clinician, Ricky, how frustrating that may be. Just if you rolled into the same barn every year and everybody was just doing the exact same thing they were the year before, or not getting better, not working at it, how frustrating that has to be on you. And when it was just you and Sarah in the trailer, that's one thing to do it. But when you got 3 kids at home and you're giving up your time to go do these clinics, and if people aren't growing, if people aren't applying it,
Well, something I'd like to say to that, John. I mean, I know there's quite a few people watching this, right? And a lot of these people I know
4,322.
that I know that they've known me for quite some time, right? And John, when you were talking about back in those times when I would say, "What the hell, people? Why aren't you better?" The difference between that person and the person today is a lot of that anxiousness I had, a lot of that chip on, whatever you want to call it, whatever, right, is going away, and thank God it's going away. The thing that I've learned now is there are people that are doing their absolute best, right, John? And they're going to learn an eighth of an inch at a time. But so where I'm going is I didn't recognize that before. It wasn't enough. It's like you got to learn more, quicker, faster. You following me? Just the pressure, the amount of pressure I put on, pressure to do it right, do it now, take this seriously, quit your job. Who the hell do you think you are? This kind of stuff, and that's something at Nick's place I don't see, and I've been that way at Nick's place.
Nick's because I know that you two have a relationship that you've put a lot of pressure on him over the years.
As far, a little bit. Little bit.
Well, why don't you ask Nick a question? It's your turn, Ricky, to ask Mr. Donohue a question.
All right, it kind of goes down that road, John. You're really good at this. Yeah.
I'm trying to
what I would like to ask you, Nick, and we've talked about it a little bit, right? And a little bit, but I think that there's a lot of people that could benefit from a little bit of your thoughts. I mean, so a little story about Nick. When I first got around him, we would ride together. He would drive, and we would ride together from the house or wherever it was we were staying. I think we were staying at Frank and Kathy's house. And he would drive me and him to the barn where the horses were for the morning. And Nick had zero feel driving a vehicle. Zero. One of the worst experiences. I'd rather ride with a taxi in New York City. One of the worst. I mean, he'd have all these papers and all this stuff on the dash of the pickup, and he'd go around a corner, and it would all slide across the dash and land in my. I'm not exaggerating, am I, Nick? Shit would land.
I wish I could say yes.
It would land in my lap and on my feet, and I'm like, oh my God! All right, what? And I pick it up and I put it back on the dash. He would do it again and again and again. It was and I finally I couldn't take it anymore. And so then, I'd be pretty hard on him because in some ways his horses, he would reach for his horses the same way or use his body in that same fashion that he was running the steering wheel in his pickup, and me wanting to help him, I'd kind of go there. I have a knack for that, if anybody knows that, of kind of really picking the scab a little bit too much sometimes, getting better at it. But I knew that the way he was and how he drove that pickup was getting in his way as a person to how he come across to that horse, because that's how he naturally would run his day, right? Everything he did, from how I remember watching him do lots of things. Very quick. Nick is naturally a very quick moving, short moving kind of guy. My question, Nick, is that's just a little bit of a lead in of a conversation we've had. And a lot of the conversations you and I have had, whether it was in front of other people or privately, I remember another one where you were flagging my grain mare around in the arena. I'll never forget that one as long as I live, right? That one gets me in my guts every time. We're not going to talk about that one. I'll never forget that. And in a good way,
was a turning point, though. In
a good way, I'll never forget it. For you and for me, but also that conversation, Nick, was a make it or break it as far as our friendship. That was a big one. It really was. I mean, I'm tired of this. I got a 50-50 shot. He's either going to come out of this thing that he's in, or we're not friends anymore. But I'm going there. And I went there. And so when I'm observing you ride horses and work with horses in the past, it has not come easy for you, Nick. It's probably come, watching you, and you and I've talked about this, it's probably come harder for you in so many ways than the majority of people I've ever helped. And believe it or not, I mean, I've learned a lot from watching you and how tenacious you are and how you're going about the things that you're going about. I pay attention to that stuff. And so my question is, in a roundabout way of this whole thing, knowing that this didn't come naturally to you and that it has been very, very difficult. It's been difficult, Nick, physically. You sit a horse so much different than you did 3 years ago, man. Like I was watching you ride your horse this last time, and I'm like, my gosh, he's actually with that son of a gun. I mean, it looks really, honestly, really good. It was different looking a while ago. Physically, it's been hard for you to get with him, right? Timing has been hard for you to get with him. Mentally, it's been hard for you to get in the right frame of thought when I work with you to go with the flow with me to help you find your. It's been a struggle, man. And I think there's a lot of people out there that might feel the same way. And so I would like you to go into some depth. I don't know how much more. We'll just keep going. I know we're over time, but let's just keep rocking and rolling. John's not our boss. You and I are. So would you go into, within a reasonable amount, because this could go on forever, this conversation, but within a reasonable deal, can you share a little bit of how you got through that, Nick, and if there's any ideas you have for someone else? Because I'm all ears right now too, because I'm going to learn something from this.
I mean, I think you nailed it. He's not the only one that's there.
Yeah, because we know John Stewart's there.
You know, it's something that is going to be really hard to answer, in the sense it has been hard. I mean, and it is, and to be honest, just about anything I've ever done has been hard for me. Like it's just been hard. I've always had to work harder. I feel like just about everything I've wanted to do, I go into at a disadvantage a little bit. But there's nothing I can do about the disadvantage. Like I'm where I'm at, right? I'm starting where I'm at. I could complain about it. I could go do something else. But if it's something I really want, I just have to keep going. And honestly, that thing where I said time, having time to pursue it. One thing, having somebody like you, honestly, having somebody like you, but that you know is being honest, that is not trying to be hurtful in what they say, that they're trying to honestly help you. Have someone that you have to believe that, regardless of if that's what they're doing or not. If you don't believe that, if I didn't think that everything you were doing was trying to help me and make me better in those hard spots, it'd be a lot easier for me to give up. But I had made a decision long before the gray mare that I knew what you were saying was going to take me further than where I was at. Regardless of if it was 100% right? It was right in that moment. It was something that was going to take me, and we were going to kind of grow together. I knew you didn't have all the answers, but you had more answers than I did. And I accepted that, knew that. And there was in moments sometimes where I was just like, Ricky, shut up, leave me alone in the moment. But once we pushed through it, and because I was willing to go ahead of time, I made that decision a long time ago. I was willing to let you put that pressure on me. And I was glad that you were there too, even if it was uncomfortable, so that I could go forward. And then just, I can't go over, there's a thing, if I were to go back, I wouldn't ask you not to put more pressure on me. but I would have put less pressure on myself to try to let time, because I think a lot of the time I put my own pressure on myself to where I was making the things worse that I needed to work at. It was harder for me, and I was fighting myself. I was fighting myself most of the time. And I had to turn loose. One of the things that honestly, the horse showing made a big difference. And there are things about showing that did, but the decision to, because it took me, honestly, your support of that helped make it do it, but it gave me some freedom I didn't feel I had when I made that decision and started doing, and that freedom has had to explore, to try different things, to not feel like I had to be a certain person, to do things to be that I had the freedom to pursue what I wanted, and that I could stay true to the horsemanship. Like, that's my one thing. I want to stay true to the horse. I want my horses to be happy. I want my horses to be content. Doesn't mean they're going to be happy every moment of their life. Who is? But I want overall to have a happy, content horse that's willing to work, that wants to work for me, and that when I'm approaching things, I'm thinking about them as well, not simply just what I want to do. I'm thinking about their well-being, taking their into consideration, trying to get them to do it the best they can. Where before, when I didn't feel that freedom, you put your foot here, I do this, you do. It was actually way more mechanical. I approached it and I was trying to do that feel, but because I didn't have that freedom within myself, I didn't allow the horse the freedom either. And it made everything really, really, really mechanical. And then pursuing the horse showing and seeing how much going into, so the stock horse thing, they've got 4 classes. You do a pleasure class, a trail, a reining pattern, and a cow. And at first, when I went in it, I was just all about, the cow and that's what I wanted to do. The pleasure is basically a walk, trot, lope pattern around the rail. It's a very simple thing. I didn't realize how much refinement could go simply into those transitions up and down, and working at that, but then realizing the horse needed more freedom to be able to get better to do those too. I couldn't micromanage them as well. I had to allow them to get out of their way. I had to get out of their way. They had to not fight themselves. I had to learn more about the biomechanics of horse. The shoeing, that stuff. But so there's stuff in that's helped me a lot too. But if I were to honestly pinpoint one thing, I honestly say feeling more freedom. And as I keep going, it's giving me more confidence in myself too, and where I want to go, and that I think that's probably the biggest thing. Is that freedom. We talked about that when you were here the last time, that, when I go out and ride my horse now, some mornings I'll just put a ball cap on. I don't have to put my cowboy hat on every single day. I still wear my cowboy hat. I still wear it most of the time, but it's not like there's some cowboy police that's going to come out in my barn and check what I'm wearing that day. But I approached it that way, and I approached everything. And I think letting go of that allowed me, and is allowing me, to continue to work on those things. This right here, This was really hard for me today.
Nick, I tell you, that was incredible. Just hearing where you are and hearing how you approach that, and just I see why people want to be student of yours too, because looking at that from my horse's perspective, I mean, just what you said, I'm going to rewatch this over and over just because I think what you're speaking is just absolute truth to where so many of us are in pursuing this, you know, and we beat ourselves up because we don't take the time and we don't give ourselves that freedom. And I just, for what it's worth, Nick, I appreciate you just opening up and sharing that. That really means a lot.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not the boss. Ricky is. Go ahead, Ricky. You can...
You're the boss, John.
I do have a nice collection of wild roses. Did you have any other questions for Nick? I know we've gone long, but man, I needed to hear that, Nick, and I really appreciate you sharing that because Ricky's been harder on you than probably anybody else in this universe. And you know, there's a good friendship there, and it's important when you do have people that are honest with you. You know, because how many it's not just in horses, but how many times do we go into some service industry where they're just telling you whatever bullshit you need to hear in order to get the, you know, have a transaction.
Well, you know, and this isn't to take things to a weird place, right? But this is a real thing, you know, like you said, being hard on Nick and the whole thing. You know, you guys, in doing this, Nick, I've watched you, right? I can partially relate to what you're saying and the whole thing, but man, keep in mind, you guys, that what I do for a living and I go, that I'm also a human being, right? And so something for me in a very, very selfish way that is really neat is Nick was where he was, and I got to explore him pushing on Nick, right, to see if I could get a change in him. But also I know that I wasn't perfect in how I was going about that. So also in that process of Nick, that's very, very unique, because you're right. I've probably pushed on him consistently harder than a lot of people that I know. He was able to also work through that a little bit. I'm sure there's days he held it against me. I would. There's days that I'm like, there's lots of clinics I've done where I just lay in my bed going, what is wrong with me? You know, why do I feel like I need to react that way? I mean, the whole vibe of the whole day just sucks now, you know? And I try to go back out the next morning, but then there you go, you know? So if there's anything I can say to you, Nick, it's in the process of this whole thing, right, is also thank you so much for allowing me to be human at the same time and pursuing how to work with a guy like you. Because, Nick, a lot of the people that I've pushed on, you know me now, I don't do it the same as I used to. You know what I mean? Partially because with you, I don't need to. But there's a lot of people that I see patterns now because of working with a guy like you. I'll see patterns and I'll know, okay, I know where this can go. I'm going to kind of treat this a little different than I did Nick. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's not just, it goes both ways too, you know, in that whole journey of this whole thing. So enough of that babble.
Well, the best quote of the night, Nick, and I wish I could put on T-shirts, is he doesn't know everything, but he knows more than I do. So he doesn't have all the answers, but he knows more than I do. So what the hell?
Yeah, and we're kind of getting to an area now. It's like these two guys that I work with, Austin and Weston, they're shoeing. It's like I go by and I look at their shoe job and I'm like, I don't even want to shoe in front of them. It's like I'm nervous because they're getting so damn good at it, you know? Sometimes when I ride around, there's glimpses, I'll watch Nick and go, I just got something there, you know? It's more of a feel than anything, but I mean, that's what this whole thing is supposed to be, I think.
Well, we're going to have Nick back on sometime because we've got a number of messages here from Pierre and other people saying we all want to know about the gray mare now. So
Pierre, if it's Pierre I know, he knows the gray mare. He trimmed her. He knows the mare.
Yeah. So I think it's an amazing talk tonight. I do want to say thanks to Nick for joining us, and hopefully you'll join us again. Hopefully we'll have people who want to hear these conversations again, you know, because I definitely am. Even if nobody's watching, I sure am enjoying just spending the time and having a real conversation with you, Ricky, and tonight having Nick around and next week. Well, first off, I do want to support Jesse's business, and she agreed to sell a wild rag. And what we're going to do, Ricky, since we're not on Facebook Live right now, I'll do a quick edit on this. We'll premiere it on Facebook, and so anybody who wants to win one of these lovely Silver Spade silks wild rags, and I've got plenty of them here. But you'll go onto her website, find out which one you want, and she'll mail it to you. The winner, we're going to choose a winner randomly based on who shares the video. So if you watch it and you hit share, I'll write your name down, and everybody who shares the video, I'll put into a little drawing, and we will announce the winner next week. These are not, I mean, these are beautiful silk wild rags. So I would definitely say it's, I mean, I don't know what they retail for now, Nick. I try not to ask myself, but I think they're 50 bucks or so. And
that sounds about right.
That sounds about right.
And John.
Yes.
How many of those do you have?
Well, I have at least 10 or so here, but
does Suzanne know you bought this many?
Suzanne doesn't watch your show, Ricky. She doesn't really care about it. You know, I've told you this before. I hope my horse stuff, like my saddle and all that kind of stuff, one of you guys, whenever I die, I mean, I want you to sell it for what it's worth, not for what I told my wife it was worth, because, you know, I think she thinks these wild rags are about $10 a piece. And but so next week we have another special guest. We have another special guest next week. I'm excited about it. Alicia Landman is going to join us. Alicia is in Nashville. You hear us talking about horse communities. She's doing an amazing job down in Nashville, and every time, if you follow her on Facebook, she's always got fun things going on down there, and it makes me really wish I lived in Nashville. But she's going to talk about her horsemanship community there, and Ricky really wants to spend some time talking with Alicia about what she's doing with Riv. We touched on, I think it was episode 2, we talked a little bit about introducing your horses, Ricky, to your kids, but man, the journey that she's on with Riv right now, and how there's nothing more depressing, I think, than going to a clinic and being just outridden. And you know, when you're in a clinic with a 6-year-old and she's doing just so much better and so much further along in her horsemanship than you are, we're going to talk to Alicia about that. And plus, we've just had too many men on this. We need some beauty. We need some grace. And so Alicia's going to join us next week. Any last words, Ricky?
No, thank you guys very much.
Thank you. I know it's gone long, but Nick, thank you so much. It was time well spent. So thanks, bud.